Good day, map makers. Today we're making yet another ASMR fantasy map. I rather enjoyed doing the first one, and I decided I'd take another stab at it. So just like last time, we're kind of going into it with not many expectations, not much planning, because this needs to all just happen rather organically. I like to just make it up as I go along. Makes for a bit of a less stressful process, in my opinion. Coffee. So what do you say we jump right into it? Now, last time we created a vertical kind of Great Britain-sized island with a larger mainland continent over in the northeast here. So the idea in putting variety into our maps without having to switch up style all that much, or the actual system you do it through. We're just gonna try and create a much different landform. So I'm thinking this time, maybe we'll start down here. Yeah. I know you can't see that, but there we are. And we just, oh, you have a sharp pencil when it pokes right through the paper. I like making the maps jagged. The coastlines, that is. Because what happens when you have jagged coastlines is it gives a greater opportunity for the mouths of bays and that rivers go into. Gives a better opportunity for more places you can create like that. Alright. This is something we can work with, I do think. Maybe I'll... Actually, I rather like that. For some natural borders on the end, we're probably going to have maybe some desert wastes over here. Maybe a mountain or two this way. Like I said, it's a lot more fun when you just make it up as you go along. Coffee. Our next step, as per usual, is to draw in some islands. So I think I'll start down here. And I'll say there's an island this away. Now, something that is easy to forget is that islands are going to very literally look like they split off from the mainland. So you see this little gap here, the little point that starts it on. Well, we're going to put a little point right where it broke off. It doesn't need to be an exact mirror of it, but you want to get a good idea of what it looks like so that you can create islands that look as though they really did just break off. A couple over there. I want to put one that's really close. Kind of the way, if you think about Greece, right? Kind of have the scraggly coastline, and then something of a little break off. So we're just gonna take that ball and run with it. I want a big island over here. Kind of skimp out on the really big islands. Unless, of course, it is a map of an island, like last time. We called it Duca. Bit of a funny name, but I like it. Alright, this one, I think this one's gonna have a friend over there. And something breaking off. And that'll do for islands. Next up, we're gonna draw mountains. So I think what I'd like to do is maybe we'll just start mountains over this way. Kind of go along there. And that gives us enough room for our compass rose in the bottom right. Coffee. So we'll start right here. Apologies, I'm aware you once again can't actually see that, but it'll come into view in a second here. Go. It's coming on the screen now. I think I'm gonna curve it the other way. Gives it a bit of a character, I think. If it's not all going just all in one direction, it's gonna curve a little bit. It's easy to think that mountains are just going all over the place. Hills, sure. But mountains, if you look at a very large scale view of real life mountains, they're shockingly straight. They're very straight lines. Which can trip some of us up sometimes. Bones is chasing her tail. I wondered what the ruckus was. These aren't my best mountains, if I have to be quite honest. They are going to be at different elevations. You see how this one, there isn't really a defined peak. Now there are ways to fix that. I might put some little mountains behind it. Mountain peaks aren't going to be as uniform as we might wish they were. Granted, I did just say they are mostly straight lines, but this is not an entire continent. This is how shall we say, maybe you might think of North Africa, for example. During the classical era, the Roman Empire, one of the first places it conquered was Carthage, which is kind of that central North African location that sticks out a bit into the Mediterranean. It was one of their first conquests, actually, in the Punic Wars. They both had Sicily in their sphere of influence, and well, it went about as you might expect a ancient politics to go. Someone needed to kill the other in order to assert their dominance. Okay. Well, I suppose that'll do. As far as mountain ranges go. Coffee. Bones is really still going at it, chasing her tail. Alright, I think then, should we do 2 mountain ranges? Nah, I think that's fine. Alright. Next up we do settlements. So, like I said, we do have a bit of inspiration from North Africa. That is to say, it is a fertile kind of area next to a sea here. I don't think this will be ocean, this will be a sea. And this is kind of the top area of what is a larger continent that extends over this way. So here's what we do. We're going to put a city. Let's see, where's our first city going? Let's put it all the way over here, just to start things off. Why not? So I like to do cities with 3 little turrets. You draw a line next to this one in the middle, a gate. Gonna go ahead and draw the shadows. A couple towers to create a keep. The keep is the castle within a castle, if you will. I might draw another one right there. A little building there. Some flags. Don't make the flags too big. And look at that, we got a little city. Let's draw some more, what do you say? I think I'll put another one right here. There's going to be a river flowing into that bay. One of the things I actually struggle with is getting a consistent size of my cities. Now, I talk quite a bit about what in a map should be uniform and what should look consistently inconsistent, I like to say. Cities, the artwork can be kind of unique on each one. What you don't want is a whole bunch of different sizes of them, though. You see how in this one I have maybe a few more towers than buildings on this one. Put the flags in different locations. Don't feel like you have to do the same exact thing every single time. But if they're both cities, they should be the same size. Alright, make the gate a little bigger, I think. So, I did decide I'm going to do some desert over here. And then these will just kind of be wastelands. But there will be something of maybe an oasis flowing through here. Alright, let's make some more cities. I think we'll have another one right here. I am going to have to erase a bit of coastline, unfortunately. But these things happen. I think I'm going to have to erase some more. I don't like doing it, obviously. But sometimes it's necessary. And by the time you finish with the city's artwork, it's not going to be quite as evident that there was supposed to originally be a coastline there. Just be careful here. I think it's about time I got rid of this pencil. It's getting a bit short and the eraser's just about done for. But I am a stubborn kind of fellow. So I am going to commit to the bit and use this. I'm going to run this pencil into the ground. Some shadows. To keep. Towers on that bad boy. And maybe some buildings over there. Yeah, that's good. Flag, flag, flag. And that's another city. How many cities do we want on this, in this region? I have 3 right now. I'm going to do the same thing I did last time, where each city is the capital. Excuse me while I stretch. Each city is the capital of a kingdom. So, I think what I'll end up doing is maybe another one around here somewhere. Yeah, I'm feeling that. So we'll do it. I'd like to not erase too many coastlines. So I think I'll do it somewhere about right here. Since that is obviously not a flat line, I will have to, once again, erase a bit, but hey, it's not like this is a commission. That was a very loud bicycle outside. I did not know bicycles could be that loud unless it's one of those motorized bicycles. I just thought they were a little funny. Motorized bicycle kind of defeats the purpose, don't you think? In any case, I mean, you might as well get a scooter. Anyway, keep. Middle, another tower. And another one. And then a nice little building right there. Flag, flag, flag. And I think that'll be it for cities. I'll fix that coastline once I get the name in. Alright, next up, castles. At some point in my life, I'd really like to go to Europe. And not necessarily just to sightsee everything. I actually like to do a very specialized kind of tour of the continent. I'd like to do a castle tour. I doubt you're very surprised, but it's always, I always thought castles were very neat. These kind of olden times, I guess you could say, always interested me. Like fantasy-themed literature. Although I haven't read as much lately as I really ought to. Wait a second, I just drew another city. Oh, I guess there are 5 cities now. Those 2 are just very close to each other. So I'm gonna have to figure something out with that. Anyway. That's my bad. That's, I was talking about medieval Europe. Medieval Europe. And I got distracted. Wouldn't be the first time. Got a little something on my glasses there. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Maybe we'll have another castle somewhere about... Well, these are going to be different countries, so we really ought to have a couple of castles dotting those areas. Two different kingdoms are gonna be pretty wary of each other, especially if they're so darn close like that. Alright. And then this city will need a castle of its own. I think I'm going to have quite a few castles by the end of this at this rate. Right. Let's draw one right here. Something important to remember is that most major settlements are going to have access to water for an obvious many reasons. You gotta have something to drink. You gotta have a way to trade. Before the industrial era, most efficient way to travel and trade was by sea. In a boat. I think maybe another one right here. I might have to erase a bit of coastline. I've done it enough times now that it's hardly an issue. I think we'll have one to watch out for invasions from these two cities right here. This one will belong to that oasis city. I might need a sharper pencil in a second here. Yeah, let's go ahead and switch those in. I always have a couple ready for these videos in order to not have to pause to sharpen them. It is far from a pleasant sound. Not very relaxing. Ah, crap. I just had a bit of an oopsie. Fortunately, you can't actually see that in the screen, can you? I just left a big old mark in the bottom right where my compass rose is going to be. So excuse me while I erase that blemish really quick. That's a bit frustrating. Yeah, it wasn't a very light mark, was it? Can you see it? No, not really. Alright. Accidents happen. Alright. Anyway. Let's get a castle right here. Let's see, what else can we do? castle. Let's do it over here. Maybe I'll have a couple this way. It's a bit dark right there. I tried not to erase the coastline. I might have to redo that. Or at least lighten it up a bit. Hey, lighten up, castle. It's a good day. Oh, crap, I did it again. Never mind, it's not a good day. I take it back. Yeah, I actually had a bit of trouble getting out of bed this morning. It was so comfortable to snooze in the morning. What is it about having to wake up that is just so difficult? Coffee? It's become lukewarm by now. I'm one of the very few strange people who actually don't mind lukewarm coffee. Scandalous, I know. I've been told that is a very strange thing. But makes a very little difference to me. That is a small castle. Whoops. Yeah, that's one of the things like I said, I'm trying to get better at making sure everything is a consistent size. Alright. Should I get... Yeah, I'm thinking one more castle for this city right here. Right there. I like to think that most settlements... Oh, by the way, we're going to draw some villages now. Most settlements are kind of there for a reason. See? Excuse me. Most of them, but not all of them. Sometimes people just kind of gather in a place and are like, yep, looks good. And then more people show up, and before you know it, you have a settlement whose location makes absolutely no sense. It happens. There are some very poorly placed cities in the world. And, sure, I mean, we have technology to make such places work, if you will. Or function, rather. But even today, some cities just don't make sense. Alright? So each castle there has a village. This city's gonna have a village. It's gonna look like they would be flood plains. Something like that. Kind of a... Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a floodplain is very similar to a swamp. A little better for farming, maybe? I just like drawing maps. I don't actually know a whole lot about geography. Maybe more than the average bear, but I am no scholar on the matter. I just like using my voice and drawing maps. I recently started trying to become involved with volunteering to read public domain books. I've been awfully busy building a shelf, actually. I haven't gotten much opportunity, to actually read much. It's also a bit of a complicated process. There's no audition, but they have very strict very strict parameters. So that can be a bit of a challenge for newbies. But if you really stick to it, they will kind of hold your hand, which is nice because, like I said, it's a rather complicated process. But I've kind of figured it out. The project I'm supposed to be working on instead of doing this is a children's book. The Bobbsey twins go to the fair. Something of that. Something like that. Right now there are only 3 people working on the project, and for a children's book it's actually a bit longer than I expected. I mean, it's not a Harry Potter novel, but so what they encourage you to do is be part of a team. You're actually not even allowed to do solo projects at first, which is probably for the best. You'd have a lot of low quality stuff if people new to it were trying to do solo projects all the time. So I'm working, not directly. I'm not having much communication with the other volunteers. But we're a bit short-handed. There are about 22 chapters, and only about 5 are being have been claimed. So part of why I've been putting it off, I guess, is because I have a feeling the project might be abandoned. But I'm kind of using it for practice anyway. And this is much like these videos starting out. It's not my magnum opus. It would be I'd be doing something wrong, quite frankly, if I created perfect art the first time I tried anything. I'm actually a musician by trade. A trombonist, to be exact. Obviously, being a gigging musician it's kind of more for fun than it really is profitable, unless you're really getting yourself out there. And I like to think I'm pretty good, but not quite to the point where I want to make a career out of it. That would be a nightmare and a half, quite frankly. But people do it. I'm what would you call it? A hobbyist? Maybe? I like having lots of hobbies. I used to focus on just music. There's not necessarily anything wrong with specialization in having hobbies, but there's also nothing wrong with being one of those jack of all trades kind of people. Makes you more well-rounded. Gives you an opportunity to try new things. Alright. Alright, yeah, I want a village down here. Just kind of in the middle of the desert, why not? And yeah, I'll make another castle. Right about there. Just to have some kind of authority over that little village. I mean, what's a settlement without a government? Alright. now we're done with settlements. Up next, we're going to do rivers and some such bodies of water. Coffee. Right. Let's think. So, of course, major rivers are going to lead to cities, most major settlements. They don't always have to, but considering they are all on the coastline, makes sense. So, let's do one here. Oh, I forgot to name them. It's never too late. I just happen to have a river right there. Okay. A little less coastline right there. Alright. Let's name them. I've been having to practice my cursive for this part. Call it Borless. Yeah, I like to do settlement names in a cursive and then region names and kingdom names in print, but a font with a serif. Serifs. It looks a little too much like Comic Sans when you don't do that. Call it Torrent. Poulan. And don't put too much thought into these names. I mean, if it's for something specific, like a role-playing game, maybe. Yeah, you can put a little more thought into them. Maybe make the names sound like in the different kingdoms or different regions, like they're the names in different languages. But when we're just doing it for fun, and for no other reason, just make them up. Doesn't matter all that much what you call them. Shuanoa. Shadow a little too close there. That's there. Stew, maybe. Dornun. Porcio. La Dad. Stormo. Why not? Clonus. Neslin. I was gonna call it Nestle, but I don't want to get copyright striked. Watch me get copyright striked. Larna. Maybe as we go north, we're gonna make the. Maybe we will make the name sound a little different. Just to indicate that there's an entirely different culture in a different region. Would you believe it? Call it moss. I like moss. Do you like moss? It's nature's carpet, I like to call it. Call it Nessun. La Dudunia works for me. This one's gonna be called. It's just gonna be called Stap. Stopa. I like that better. Villages tend to have simpler names. I've always kind of imagined, anyway. I mean, it's gonna be a less educated group of people. It's gonna be a less significant place, so why have an interesting name? Just have a short, simple name. Coffee? Okay. City. Bassa. And the city. Nova. I'm hilarious. It doesn't quite fit. We'll call it Novon. We're gonna cheat a bit. Casa. Yeah, that's a P. Port. Nothing like a port city. That's just called Port. Lan. Doe. Cow. Rissy. Ennen. Once again, probably gonna get copyright strike. Poos. Yes. Bus. Torse. And Bon. That'll do. Okay. Now we can draw rivers. Where were we? Okay. We were down here. Little river there. A river there. Something like that. And another one this way. We want to indicate that these cities are to the left of the river, these cities are to the right. Rivers are kind of like that. They'll separate countries where mountains don't, or where hilly areas are separate from lowlands. I wanted an oasis. I'm gonna go ahead and draw the border here. It's a little out of order, but I want to make sure I don't miss that because the shadow kind of got in the way. Now, alright, that's gonna go through there. Now, where are the rest of these rivers going to come from? I think I'll do hills. Yeah, that sounds good. Thing with hills is they kind of border on decoration, just because. If you just draw really dense hills, you have nowhere to draw the cities, so that's why I draw the cities first. So, even though hills are just old mountains, so it'll seem out of order, it kind of makes sense in the end. So this will be hilly area. I guess since I already have my settlements, I can go ahead and draw that. This will be kind of the highlands, I guess. These are just kind of semi-ovals, you might say, near the center of the hills, because they are going to be much more spread out and a little my tummies are rumbling. So maybe 2 or 3 in the center of where the hills go. There are 4. And maybe we'll do those first, just so we don't, so we have a general idea of where all this is going. Just like that. I don't know where all these little hairs come from. Probably from my arm. I've been called Sasquatch more than once. I kind of just learned to accept it after a while. It was a bit offensive at first, but I got over it. keep those hills going. Ooh, let's do a big one. There we go. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay. Now we draw the smaller kind of hills. These are just going to be 2 or 3 at most. Definitely 2 though. It looks a little weird when it's just one hill kind of on its own. Okay. 2 hills there. 2 hills there. 2 there. And there. And there. And there. Okay. That's looking like some pretty good mountains. I want to fill it. Nah, I gotta leave somewhere for the rivers to go, I guess. But I do like the idea of some highlands over there. Let's draw some rivers. What do you say? Alright, so this is gonna come from, let's see there. It's gonna go yonder. Mm-hmm. Do another one right here. And sometimes rivers just kind of stop around mountains. It's, well, I don't know, that'll look weird. We'll keep it going. And maybe one more river this way. Yeah, that's good. I don't really have any deltas in this one. In the last video, you may have seen that there were some rivers that would go down and then split and almost look like a lightning bolt. In that case, rivers do split, but because deltas are an exception. In this case, not so much. Rivers will almost always join otherwise. So that'll be a joined river. Draw another one this way. And that castle kind of sits on. And I think I need a lake. I'm going to put it right there. And so I don't forget about them, because it's happened before, I'm going to go ahead and draw the waves. We'll get to that later. The waves and how to embellish coastlines, but sometimes I just like to do lakes first so I don't forget about them. And you can actually have multiple rivers that go into a lake, but it's always only going to have one outlet. There's only one river leading away from a lake. So in this case, 2 go in, 1 comes out. Where else do I want a lake? Maybe this village right here has a lake. Alright. Another river that joins over there. Alright, we have this oasis here now. Let's get one that kind of goes from like there to there. It's almost going in like the opposite direction, as you might expect. We need some rivers for these little villages here. And I think I do want a river for these guys. And that river will join with that one. Alright. Those are some good rivers. Alright, next what we want to do is, oh, what does come next? I guess I could do the coastline. What you do here is you just, well, you double up the coastline, really. You just draw a second line over it. And we're going to do that with islands too, of course. But I'll get to islands after I do this initial one. I used to think doing this looked a little weird at first, quite honestly. I kind of preferred to just do waves, and I'm gonna show you how to do that after I do this secondary border. But doing both is really the way to go. It looks both defined as well as having the coastline itself just kind of have a bit of definition of its own. This is a bit of a slow process because you don't want it to look too messy. It doesn't have to be perfect, much like other things in this whole project, but you don't want to go too crazy. The thing with this part is if it's too close to another landmass, you just kind of go over it. It can be a bit confusing sometimes, but that's just kind of how I've seen it done, so I don't really question it. And in the end, it looks alright, so we'll just kind of stick to that technique, if you will. It's going to be a bit more rounded than the jagged edges of the original coastline. Which works just fine for me. Makes it a tad easier. And you know the best part? Making the waves takes even longer to do. Alright. Now we gotta do islands. For a lot of them, you can basically just circle it. And you don't want to do that don't take those words too faithfully, but you can kind of see I am doing a bit of the outline, but for the most part, it's I am just I'm not being too fickle about it, that's all. There we go. That's better. Alright. Looking pretty good. So far, so good. let's do waves. At least this isn't an island this time, so I really only have half of a page to do, so that's a blessing. No, I guess you can't quite see it yet. Downside of not having a very good camera setup. Works for now. I mean, I'm gonna guess that most viewers will be doing more listening than watching for instruction. There are all kinds of great resources for learning how to do this. I started out watching videos by WASD20. I'll put the link in the description if I can remember. He's very good for teaching the art style. He has admitted quite nobly that he's not actually a geographer, so to say. I'm kind of in the same boat. We have some basic knowledge on how on how maps work, but I'm definitely in the same boat. We are willing to learn new things about geography, and we'll implement that into future maps, but until then, we do the best we can. And that's quite okay. I also had inspiration for the idea of the relaxation videos from ASM Arctica, I believe what it is. I like maps and I like ASMR, so I watched a couple and said, it seems pretty fun. I like drawing maps enough. I actually usually prefer to listen to these relaxation videos while I draw maps, but I wanted to give it a shot, and I had a good first experience. Well, first experience posting a video, rather. My first experience, I guess, was quite a bit of a trial run. I deemed it not... I didn't do the video intending to post it, which made it a lot less stressful. Kind of eased my nervousness for giving it a shot. Turned out about as terrible as you might expect a first attempt to go at. Well, first attempt at anything. But I learned a couple of things from that first attempt at a video. Between sound engineering and just things to talk about. Although sometimes I'll say, I'll think about talking about something, and then I'll say, oh, wait a second, I talked about that already. And then I also realized that that was in a video that I never actually posted. So, in reality, I can just go ahead and repeat myself. And even if I did post a video in which I said something I repeated, well, not the end of the world. first video I posted. It was an hour and 48 minutes long, I want to say. So, quite frankly, I think it's hardly noticeable if I repeat myself. So, apologies if there is some offense in that, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's not that big of a deal. I think the part I struggle with, though, is just trying to continuously talk. I guess you could say part of the reason I started that volunteering thing, reading public domain books, was, well, if you want to do something like that, you kind of can't mind the sound of your own voice. Fortunately for me, I do enjoy working with vocals. I think it's fun. One of my dream jobs when I was younger was being a voice actor. Someone came up to me on the street and said, "Hey, I'm from Hollywood and I randomly want you to voice act in my project." I would still probably say that sounds like a load of fun. You don't even have to pay me. I would just love to do something like that. I think I actually like reading books aloud for the purposes of making up characters' voices. I enjoy that more than just reading. I am your typical books are boring kind of person. I prefer more, and it's not just because I like to say it's because I like more interactive things. I don't know the exact reason I don't love reading, but I did make a good effort for a hot minute there, because I was on a writing kick. I would create maps like this and be like, there's a story to be told about these little places. So I tried writing. I don't think I was ever terrible at it, especially once I got some experience. Early attempts definitely had quite a few tropes, unfortunately, but such is the way of being a novice in a new art form or science. Well, maybe not a science, but I guess in science you are supposed to use what in art would be a trope, so it's kind of the opposite. Yeah, well. Okay. So, the worst part is over. Almost. I need a couple more right there. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Okay. With that over with, we can go ahead and shade in some things. I will start with the mountains. The way we do this is I like to put the shadows on the right side of the peaks. Draw a line down the middle. And just shade it in. I mentioned in the first video that this is one of the best ways to add dimension to artwork. Never underestimate the power of shading. It will add so much. And it's a little less mundane than doing all the coastline work. Don't let that discourage you, of course, from giving intricate coastlines a go, and that, well, really anything in drawing a map you can take liberties and experiment and kind of use whatever tactics work for you. This part of why I am avoiding very detailed instruction in this video is for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's meant for relaxation. That's why the first word in the title is going to be ASMR. Not word, but what's it called? Abbreviation? Yeah. But I would like to get a little better at this, at drawing maps. I never was very good at the visual arts. Kind of ironic that I love drawing maps so much. And it can be a hindrance sometimes when it comes to drawing consistently sized settlements. I guess I just never really learned those techniques, unfortunately. Well, the skill of it, the raw skill of being able to have a steady hand and a good eye for what looks good and what doesn't on a piece of paper. So, if you're in a case like that as well, there's a big old learning curve. Fortunately, I have YouTube as a resource for learning. And I also got a really neat book for Christmas titled How to Draw RPG and Fantasy Maps. I don't have it with me, so I can't look at my bookshelf to see what the actual title is called if I am incorrect about that, but I also don't know the author's name off the top of my head, so rip. But if you are looking to draw your own maps, you can use these videos as a way to get some inspiration, but I would recommend other resources as well. There are so many out there that will give you really good instruction. I think one of these days I will do maybe a bit of an instruction video, but that might be a little ways from now. A different effort. Alright. Voila. The mountains have shadows now. Let's move on to the hills, which were up here. These are going to be less prominent. They don't have peaks after all. But it still looks really good when you give everything a shadow. Love me some shadows. And it doesn't have to be a completely darkened shadow. By leaving white space in these shadings, it actually can leave a very nice amount of dimension. So don't be afraid to do that. And unlike my first video that I posted, I am trying to do this entire thing in one sitting. Which I don't think I've actually ever done before, quite frankly. Don't keep that as divine speaking. It's not really set in stone. But we're gonna see what I can do. Alright, with those all shaded, let's go ahead and draw some artwork. The more, less meaningful, I guess you could say. Details, that also just kind of make it more interesting. So, this is desert area. What do you say we draw some cacti? I'll get my hand out of the way so you can actually see what I'm doing. And obviously, you don't have cactus forests, so they're going to be quite a bit spread out. You're only going to have a couple. Just a little handful. That one's kind of ugly, but I'm also trying really hard not to bump into my microphone this time. I had to do a bit of editing, and I still don't think I got every little audio blemish. But hey, first attempt. I seem to get some decent feedback. As of this recording, I only had one comment. Shout out to that loyal fan. You might also notice that besides this video and the one before it, are not ASMR videos. I've tried many different things when it comes to YouTube. So I've got quite the interesting variety of that sort of thing. You know what? I'm not going to do any trees. Oh, alright, maybe a couple. But I'll do a lot more grassland, I'm thinking. So let's draw some trees here. And I think I did exclusively evergreens in Duga. So I'm going to do more of a I'm not sure what you would call it. You'd think I would know this sort of thing, quite frankly. But I guess you can't see it yet. Apologies that this corner has been neglected. But I already set up the camera. I'll have to show a picture of what my setup looks like at the end of the video. What do you say? I'll do another close-up of the map, the finished product, but I think you'll get a kick out of how, what's the best word? Primitive, maybe? My setup is. It is a 720p webcam mounted on my lamp. I can't adjust the focus, which is why, as you may have noticed, the visual is a bit blurry, unfortunately. Not much I can do about that until I consider getting a camera dedicated to this, or at least a stand. Because the other problem is that my microphone is a bit further away from my face than I would prefer it. It kind of works out because then I can speak in a kind of soft-spoken volume. But then I do have to raise the amplitude in post-production. And I think it works out. And there wasn't too much background noise except when there was a cat doing some such nonsense in the background. We do have 4 of them, my fiance and I. And their names are Happy, Athena, Allie, and Bones. The one chasing her tail was Bones in the beginning of the video. The one who was causing quite a bit of frustration from the noise she was making last time was Allie. I'll try not to hold it against her. It's not like she knew that I was making a, an ASMR video. Alright, so unfortunately, I was not able to complete this entire video in one sit down because a tow truck pulled up right next to my house, ran for half an hour, and then towed nobody away. So, it is later this evening, and I'm going to draw some trees. That's right. Let's finish up this bad boy. We're going to draw our decorative details. We're going to draw a title for this region. We're going to draw our directions. Cardinal directions, and then we'll be just about ready to wrap things up. Chalk up another sortie. So with this part, with the trees, play with the density a bit of the forests, because you don't want it too dense, but you also don't want it too sparse. Unless, of course, it's an area like this that is supposed to be sparse. Same thing with grasslands. Don't draw too many little grass shoots sticking up, or else it ends up looking like a savanna of sorts. Which, of course, if that's your goal, then that's all fine and dandy. But maybe I'll do just that very thing. I think I'll draw a savanna, maybe around here. Yeah, that sounds good. With trees, you want them to be about the same size each, but this is one of those things where it'll look a little more, it'll have a bit more character if you kind of experiment and make things look unique. Not every tree is gonna look the same, goes without saying. And it's okay to make it look that way. In a lot of maps I'll make, I will have both these sorts of trees, the kind of bushy trees, as well as evergreens. There isn't really a right answer to how to do it, and there are a lot of ways to make forests and trees and all that good stuff. You can do what I do and draw them as individuals, but maybe all grouped together, such as, for example, the map of Middle Earth. You could have a big blob of forest with just some the tops of, the canopy, sticking out bits of it. Or you could do what I do and just draw each tree individually. It's totally up to you what you want to do. Now, you'll see a lot of instructional videos tell you a correct way of doing things. Well, many instructions, rather, not just videos, but take it with a grain of salt. I recommend, if you're drawing a map for the first time, do exactly as they tell you. But as you go on and as you kind of figure out how to navigate world building, the world of world building on your own, you can make decisions for yourself then. But for the most part, you want to start out with kind of a humble attitude that you're here to learn from others, and it's better to learn the rules in order to break them. That's another point of contention with fantasy maps, is that you might have things that don't necessarily make sense or don't really get seen in the real world. I mentioned Lord of the Rings earlier. Um, hate to say it, you hate to hear it, but it's not a very geographically realistic map. There is a mountain literally called the Lone Mountain. That doesn't happen in real life. Now, of course, if there is very deep lore, goes without saying, in the universe of Middle Earth, but to my knowledge, they don't really explain that. But if they did, then, well, you can get away with it. So if you're drawing a map for a story and you see, I don't know, if I decided to make just a giant mountain right here for no other reason than it was in the lore, I could say something like, well, a magical cataclysm happened there and it created this mountain. That's really all you need to say. Beyond that, it's, so long as you justify to some extent, your audience won't really question it. Alright, so I think we have our nice little decorations up. Let's move on to the compass rose and the title. For this part, we grab our stencils. I don't know if anybody likes to do this sort of thing without the aid of a way to draw a perfect circle. But like I've mentioned before, I'm kind of a newbie when it comes to the visual arts. So I just kind of use the tools that I have before me. And, well, I think it's smart. Okay, do I have my ruler? I do have my ruler. Alright. Next step is I like to kind of eyeball the center of the circle. It's going to be about there. I'll take it. We'll do 4 inches. Just gonna go all the way down there. How did that get there? Wait a second. Centimeters, my bad. How to tell someone you're American without telling them you're American. Okay, Okay, that goes to 8 centimeters. This goes to 16. And I always spend so much time measuring the perfect compass rose. But I've also never drawn an entire map in one day, quite admittedly. Ignore that. Ignore that little error there. Well, that's what I mean. Sometimes you're gonna make errors, and in my stage of my little map drawing career, I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't matter. It just does not matter. See that? It is a far from perfect line. You know what I'm gonna do to fix it? Absolutely nothing. Because once you start erasing things, unless it's necessary for a cleaner looking labeling, you know, like a settlement. It's probably just gonna look worse at the end of the day. Okay, I'm going to shade in the right side of each little arrow there. Alright, pretty good, pretty good. Alright, and now we draw our directions. North. Oh, I have no room for south. That's a problem, isn't it? Alright, well, At least I have north. And that'll have to do, I guess. Right, which stencil do we want to use? Let's do eeny, meeny, miny. This one. It's probably the one I used last time. That's fine. This is actually a architectural stencil. It's meant for interior design, but yeah, it's just kind of what I ended up with. You see. Alright. What do we want to name our region here? How about... we're going to call it Borgus. It's a longer name than I have room for, though. So I'm going to do a rather tall font, I guess you could say. Even though I don't think I'm actually going to be able to fit it all in. It might just end up being Borgu. Yeah, well, I've heard dumber names. And I think that'll do it, actually. I can't really think of much else besides maybe, let's draw a sea monster here. That sounds fun. Oh, there we go. Now it's complete. Alright. Well, there you have it, folks. That is my completed map. If you enjoyed watching, consider watching another one. Check back in another time, and maybe I'll have another map ready for you next time you're feeling sleepy and may or may not want to draw along. So, thank you for watching, and good night.